The decisions President Trump made with Iran and the choices that he still has to make are very complicated and carry risks on all sides. And to really understand how we got to this point, it helps to remember our history with Iran, because there is a lot of mutual distrust that goes back more than 70 years. The first flashpoint was in 1953. Iran had a popular and democratically elected leader named Mohammad Mossadegh. But he alarmed the U.S. government with plans to nationalize Iran's oil industry, which would have cost British and U.S. oil interests. And so the CIA supported a coup to overthrow Mossadegh and install an abusive dictator, the Shah, who then imprisoned Mossadegh and then executed his foes and tortured the Iranian people to the point of submission for decades. But by the late 1970s, an ailing Shah is overthrown by a radical theocracy led by the Ayatollah Khomeini. He despised Israel and deeply resented the U.S. role in installing the Shah. And as he took over, Iranians invaded the U.S. Embassy and took 52 Americans hostage for more than a year. And under the Ayatollah Khomeini and his successor, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran has vowed death to Israel and the United States as a weekly routine. And Iran's hostility toward Israel picked up in the 2000s under its Holocaust denier President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. He called the very existence of Israel an insult to humanity, and he was surely speaking for the current Ayatollah there. And Iran has been sponsoring and funding terrorist groups throughout the region that share a common hatred of Israel and the United States. One of those groups is Hamas, which invaded Israel in 2023 and committed that rampage of kidnapping and rape and torture and murder that we know as the October 7th massacre. Now remember how former President Biden described Hamas.
Hamas' stated purpose for existing is the destruction of the state of Israel and the murder of Jewish people.
And in addition to Hamas, Iran also sponsors the Islamic Jihad and the Houthi rebels and Hezbollah, which took off more than 40 years ago when Israel invaded Lebanon to try to stop PLO terrorist activities in Beirut. Among many other deadly attacks, Hezbollah also struck a U.S. Marines barracks in 1983, killing 220 Marines, 18 sailors, and 3 soldiers where they were stationed in Beirut.
There are no words to properly express our outrage, and I think the outrage of all Americans at the despicable act.
And in 2006, Hezbollah also raided Israel and started a war with Israel. And with all of that, let's now come back to current events, because Iran has claimed it now has Israel surrounded with all of these proxy fighters on all sides, and Iran threatened to unleash all of these forces in a synchronized attack on Israel before Israel attacked Iran. And Iran is on the path to developing nuclear weapons. That's all important context for why the United States and Iran have these deep, long-running tensions, and how the U.S. and Israel have deep mutual concerns about Iran and Israel's strikes on Iran and Israel trying to take out Iran's nuclear program now. And for President Trump saying this.
Two very simple words, a very simple, unconditional surrender. That means I've had it.
And here's some more important context. The United States struck a nuclear deal with Iran under former President Obama. The U.S. agreed to pay Iran for weapons that it bought, but the U.S. never delivered. And we agreed to unfreeze much of Iran's own money. And in turn, Iran agreed to suspend its nuclear program. And at first, President Trump was not necessarily against that.
It's very tough to do when you say rip up a deal, because I'm a deal person.
In Trump's first term, his first Secretary of Defense, Jim Mattis, supported the nuclear deal that former President Obama struck with Iran, known as the JCPOA.
Do you believe it's in our national security interest at the present time to remain in the JCPOA? That's a yes or no question.
Yes, Senator, I do.
But then Trump's inner circle changed. Mattis left, and others like John Bolton entered the picture with very different views.
What specifically should the president do to crack down on Iranian aggression?
Well, I think he needs to abrogate the Iranian nuclear deal. It was a strategic disaster for the United States when we entered into it. It's not getting any better with age.
Trump then pulled out of the nuclear deal with Iran, and President Biden never brought it back. And you may expect Trump not to try to revive it either, since he's the one who pulled out of it. But in his second term, Trump has re-engaged with Iran, and Iran agreed to re-enter negotiations over its nuclear program. And now Israel has disrupted those negotiations by striking Iran with the goal of taking out Iran's nuclear program before any talks could deliver who knows what. But Israel cannot likely accomplish that goal alone because some of Iran's program runs deep underground. And Israel does not have military capabilities to take that part of it out. That would require U.S. bunker-busting bombs. Which now brings us to the difficult decisions for President Trump, the competing views about this from within his own party, and the situation that's playing out as we speak.